Hey everyone, this is the VG247 team. I'm Dorani, this is Tom and Alex. Guys, say hello, how are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Good. Excellent.
Awesome. Thank you again, guys, for tuning in to the third week of us rambling and talking everything games that's happened during the week. So this week, it's actually been a decent one. We have a new Nintendo Switch, or a spec bump to a Nintendo Switch. And we have PlayStation revealing some new games or games that they've already shown. And it's looking good. Definitely exciting. The PlayStation event in particular definitely got me excited. Do you want to speak about the events and the Switch, or do you want to talk about what we've been playing this week or straight in?
Should we talk about the Switch to start? Because that's the big news of the week, right? That is the big deal.
Definitely. Okay, so go ahead. What's new with the Nintendo Switch?
Well, so for a start, the most important thing to note is that this is not the Nintendo Switch OLED, the Nintendo Switch 4K model that was rumored, that was talked about. So this is, and you yourself there, Dorani, said the word spec bump. It ain't a spec bump. It is not. Okay. So basically, this is the existing Switch with an OLED screen. Mm-hmm. So obviously, the OLED screens are beautiful quality, very, very crisp. The original model of the PS Vita had an OLED screen, and that was the best thing about that machine by far and away. And so here we are. We've got a Switch with an OLED, which is lovely. But other than that, it is largely unchanged. The screen is slightly bigger, so there's slightly less of a bezel around the screen. I was looking for my Switch there to see if I could hold it up, but I don't have it. So it's got slightly less of a bezel. There you go. So the big black bezel around your screen there, that's slightly thinner. It is more or less the same size as the existing Switch, though. It is a little bit wider, but we're talking like a quarter of an inch, something like that. I think it might actually be a bit thinner. I'll have to check this, but it's basically more or less the same. It's got a bit more storage in it. It's got 64 gigabytes of built-in storage. I'm pretty sure the original Switch is 32.
Yep.
And that's it. A lot of things that people wanted. So, for instance, it obviously doesn't output 4K, but we'll come to that. But things like the original Switch doesn't do Bluetooth for headsets, which is just stupid and sucks. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people now have AirPods or whatever and literally can't wire them in. Yeah. And so you have to carry around a wired headset if you're going on a flight or something. Not that anyone's going on a flight right now, but you know what I mean. And so you would have expected this model to address that. Doesn't address that. Doesn't address a lot of things. But the main thing it doesn't address is it has the same CPU, the same RAM, the same processor, all that stuff. I mean, this stuff always changes over time. So like a current Switch is going to have slightly different variations on the RAM and CPU and stuff than the ones at launch, because time has passed and they have fabrication techniques improve and stuff like that, and they're able to create stuff that's perhaps slightly more efficient. But it's not a difference in power. And I wrote an article on the site, if you click around VG247.com or search the Switch category or whatever, or go to the features list, you will see that I wrote an article where I basically say, forget the fact, a lot of people were talking about the Switch Pro, and they were talking about 4K and wanting to play 4K and using DLSS to achieve that and all that sort of stuff, which is great. It's a great idea. However, the current Switch doesn't even run a lot of games at 1080p reliably. So I will go a step further. It doesn't even run a lot of games at 720p reliably.
Exactly.
Like a game like Xenoblade 2 is a great game, a really impressive, large, open-ended Japanese RPG. It's an excellent game, and I would recommend it to anyone. But the resolution of that game is actually about, I think it often runs like 600p, thereabouts. Yeah. It obviously depends on if you're handheld or docked. And so I said, I'm less interested in a 4K Switch than I am in just a Switch that can run games consistently at a half decent FPS.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn, guys. And so, where does this leave us?
Disappointed.
Well, a little bit. I think your mileage is going to vary based on how much you play handheld. For one, because the OLED is a big difference maker if you play a lot of handheld. It doesn't matter a jot if you're a docked person.
Yep.
The new dock does have one significant upgrade, which is it's got a LAN port, so you can wire in your internet. So if you're someone playing Smash Brothers online or something like that, and you want a lag-free experience, Monster Hunter probably would be a good one for that too, right?
Yeah.
And you want to reduce the lag, that new dock will do that. And that
But
new
that's
dock,
I was going to say that's the notion that everyone upgrades to the new Switch, though.
well, so they are selling the new dock separately, and the new dock is compatible with the existing Switch, and vice versa. So this would still fit into a normal Switch dock. So if you had this, took it to a friend's house, and they had a normal Switch, you would be able to dock into their dock.
Okay.
Which is proof of how close the two are. And it's got that new lovely white color scheme.
Yeah.
So I think, I think it's interesting. Does this preclude a Switch Pro from existing? No. My running theory is really that this was delayed, and because we first got stuff popping out of factories about an OLED screen for the Switch around about 7 or 8 months ago. That was the time when that sort of stuff first started to appear, and we heard nothing. And what I personally think is going on is that this was probably going to come out last year, didn't because of COVID and various other factors, and there is still probably a Pro in development. And to think about this, I point to like the life cycle of the Nintendo DS, where I know we got the Switch Lite, but the Switch Lite was a new branch. It wasn't a redesign. If you think about the DS, we had the original DS, then we had the DS Lite, which was a redesign that sort of gradually replaced the original DS. They phased out the original DS gradually, and eventually you could only buy the Lite, which I bet is what happened with the OLED and the original Switch. Maybe the OLED price comes down after a year, and then a little while after that, we got the DSi. And the DSi was the machine that was more powerful, could play a few exclusive games, but also could play existing games better or with more features and stuff like that. And that feels like, to me, what is likely to happen. The question is, how long do we wait for a Pro? Now, we know the boss of Nintendo of America, Doug Bowser, has sort of said that we're halfway through the Switch's life cycle. We're 5 years in. So that means, in theory, Nintendo thinks this is going to be a 9 or 10 year life cycle.
Has it been 5 years? What?
Yeah.
Jesus
2020.
Christ.
Well,
Four and a half. Yeah.
It'll be 5 at the end. It'll be 5. Yeah. It's 4.5. So, be 5 early next year. And so, if we're only halfway through, there's plenty of time for them to do an upgraded version.
Yeah.
I've got some thoughts. Yeah, Switch OLED. I mean, I don't know. I was watching that trailer, and it's like it's got a screen, new screen. It's got a kickstand. It's got a new memory. So we're waiting for and it runs games at blah 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 resolution. It just never came. But I mean, I'm not that bothered because, like, I think for what Switch is, I'm not desperate for a Switch that does games at 4K really at the moment.
No.
And the games they've got coming out have clearly been designed for the original Switch. It's not like I'm going, I wish that Breath of the Wild 2 was on a better Switch because it looked rubbish. I mean, it looked great what they showed off, right? I'm not that bothered about a more powerful Switch. I think the interesting thing is, like, because we're now, like we're saying, we're in the 5th year of Switch. This is like they're releasing the OLED at the end of the year. Where does that leave the Pro? Because I mean, I know they're saying a 10-year life cycle, but that's a long time. Are they going to keep supporting original Switch in another 4 years when they've got potentially a Pro out in another year or 2 years? It feels like that's a long time to be supporting what would be absolutely ancient technology at that point. But I don't know. They're doing a lot of. Some companies are doing this. The streaming options for games, right? So you're seeing a few of these games that aren't running on Switch at all. Yeah, Guardians is one of those. I mean, I don't think that's ever going to have a massive uptake, but I mean, maybe in a few years that's going to be something that's more of an option for people. But yeah, I mean, I was disappointed in a way.
Hey, maybe there's a Switch Pro.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's a Switch Pro over 5G.
Maybe. I mean, who knows?
That would be so good. I
think
Vita
literally did that, right?
Yeah, it did. It did.
No one bought it, but
It seemed quite well. Like this announcement as a whole, it seemed quite well received online. I didn't see anyone dare speak against the
I
Nintendo
don't know where you were
overlords.
looking.
Dude,
I don't know where you were
you know
looking,
what?
dude.
My timeline is filled with influencers that don't want to get on Nintendo's tits,
It's
so
like-
they literally, oh my god, OLED screen. I'm like, what? Are you serious? You can't be taught.
With
No.
Nintendo, right? With Nintendo stuff, like I like Nintendo. They make some great games, but they could release like something the shape of a dog turd, and people would be all over it. Like it doesn't matter. It's Nintendo, right? People would love it. I think like some people didn't love it because the expectations were for something else, right? As a sort of a little upgrade, it's fine. Like it looks nice. Like if I had the money free, I'd buy one just because it looks cool and I'd like the updated screen. But it's just not like for me. I'm just not that bothered about it at the moment. But if I had loads of like disposable income, yeah, I'd buy one because it looks cool.
The thing I'd say to one of the things you said there, Tom, about where does that leave a Pro in the future? I think the one thing that's interesting is we've got Microsoft, right, who have. It's pretty clear now that Xbox is moving towards this sort of Apple model, where there might not necessarily be a next generation Xbox in the same way as we have where you have a clean break. In fact, even this generation for Microsoft hasn't been a clean break. Part of that is because they haven't had any bloody games for the new Xboxes, but still. And the question is, Nintendo is the one company that hasn't been afraid to do truly exclusive games for their hardware revisions. They haven't done very many of them. But, you know, there was never an Xbox One X exclusive, as far as I know. There was never a PlayStation 4 Pro exclusive. It was always, here's a machine that runs the games you've already got slightly better. However, there were Nintendo DSi exclusives, and there were new Nintendo 3DS exclusives. What a terrible name for a console. And so the question is actually, I think, what are Nintendo's plans for the next generation beyond Switch? Is it a clean break? Or do they just sort of start going in this iPhone model where they release slightly more powerful versions of the hardware they've got every X number of years, every so often, and eventually we will reach a point where they draw a line under the current Switch as we have it today. Don't think that would happen for another 5 years.
Yeah.
Especially with the install base it's got now. What is it, like 180 million or something silly? But that's one path I could see them going down. And I get what you're saying about you're not bothered about Breath of the Wild looked great. I agree, it did look great. The art style carries that game a long way. But the problem is, in some areas, Breath of the Wild ran at like sub 20 FPS.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So, and I wish that had been addressed with this model, and I only hope that there is one in the pipe that'll be the case for.
Yeah, I think as a whole, it wasn't what everyone expected, and props to them for doing it in a tweet as well. I think that's a you have to have a lot of balls to just do that. Here's a new Switch. You're hearing from it by a retweet. Yeah, because the 4K and the Pro rumors were first, it just made the OLED version it just didn't do what it was supposed to for me personally. I don't care. I haven't taken my Switch out of the dock for ages because I find the Switch so uncomfortable to hold sometimes, especially when I was playing Breath of the Wild. When I first got it, I was like, because of how much I was enjoying the game, I was putting my hands through the most uncomfortable experience. And I don't know if you saw, this is like it's like a case.
Oh, yeah.
This is it's like, I don't know. Skull
It's
and
like
Co.
a Pro controller. Yeah.
Yeah. Skull and Co case. If you're watching, yeah. Yeah, I had to get things like that because my hands just killed so much. So yeah, I didn't care.
I didn't have that so much, but I will get this because my Switch, my launch Switch, is absolutely fucked. It's like the grills on the top where the heat dissipates are all broken and cracked. And it's just it started to, the Joy-Con rails have almost started to warp a bit, and it feels a bit flimsy. And that's because in this job before the pandemic, you traveled a lot, and so I constantly had my Switch on me. And pre-pandemic Nintendo reviews, they would not do review events. It wasn't like they make you go and sit in a room and play all of Zelda start to finish. But they would always ask you to go to their office so they could give you an intro to the game, and then you'd take away your copy, and you'd always take your own Switch for that. So I was always going back and forth on the train with the Switch just thrown in the bag and inside a case. I'm not a complete barbarian, but I just toss switching about, and so it's pretty banged about. So I will get it for that purpose and for the OLED screen, but it is a disappointment. And I know people watching, people listening, one of the big questions for people who are not inside our world is, what the hell was the deal with all those rumors? And I think get a second to address that. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but what I think has happened is it's two sets of information that are probably both correct that have got tangled up into one piece of information. So people were right when they said a Switch Pro announcement is imminent around E3, because less than a month later, we got an announcement of a new model of Nintendo Switch. What they were wrong about was what it was. However, if people in the media and influencers and stuff like that are hearing from, say, game developers, they're hearing from game developers, hey, we're working on a high spec version of our current Switch game. That's a no smoke without fire sort of situation. Yeah. But maybe it just so happens that fire is like another year away.
Yeah, definitely. I think, actually, wait, Tom, did you have anything to just add onto this thing before we move on?
No, nothing.
No, yeah.
I think zero.
I think that's a great way to summarize. Just no, nothing.
They've impressed you then, Tom, clearly.
I'm quite happy in a way, because my son, who is only 7, watches Digital Foundry videos already. And he's like, yeah, that version looks a lot better than that one, doesn't it? I'm like, so if there'd have been a better Switch, he'd have been watching these comparisons and been going, yeah, that Splatoon 3 looks so much better. I need that Switch. So it saved me like 350 quid, whatever a Pro would cost. So I'm quite happy in that. He'll probably still want this, but I can talk him out of that, because he doesn't really, he plays on the TV mostly, so it's not a massive thing. But yeah, I can understand people liking it because it looks nice, and it's a anything new has that sense, I've got to get, it's new, it's cool, it's new, I want it, etc. The FOMO, that kind of thing. But it's not something I'm desperate for, I'd say.
Yeah, you're definitely not missing out.
Maybe your son is he's going to be the next generation of Digital Foundry, right? John better watch out. He'll be doing the DF retro videos in 20 years, except they'll be about Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Yeah, we've been watching those this is a bit like Inside Gamer Network, but we've been watching those PlayStation history videos that they're doing.
They're so good.
And we were just watching the second one about the American launch, and it's like, I quite like watching it with him, because for him, he doesn't know about games before like the Switch is it for him, really. So there's always stuff like him seeing what happened, like when I was, older than him now, but I was like 13 or whatever when the PlayStation came out, and it's like, it's a completely different world. Like, he doesn't know those things exist until he sees them in a video. It's the same as like, he doesn't understand that TV existed before you could just choose what you wanted on a tablet. Like, that is not, he doesn't know. Like, it's a completely different world. So yeah, I think those videos, if you've not even watched them, go to Digital Foundry on YouTube and check them out. They're really good.
Oh, they're super good. I would say John's Shenmue history video, that DF retro video, is like one of my all-time favorite video essays of anything. And it's funny, the generational difference. That's the right way, right, to introduce him to old games, as opposed to these parents who go, I'm going to bring my child up right. I'm going to put an NES in front of them and they're going to play that. They're not going to have a PS5.
Lord.
Like, oh my God, your child's just going to get bullied. Come on now. But it's funny how generations change. Like, Dorani, you probably don't really remember a pre-internet world, right?
What are you talking about? Put some respect on my name right now. Revert that comment.
Surely you are of an age where the internet was pretty ubiquitous by the time you were
definitely
walking and talking.
What it was the ADSL time. That's when I remember internet. I don't remember life without internet, But
This
I
is
remember.
exactly what I said.
No. But it's like I was there as it
But you don't
as it
remember
was start. No. But as it was, I don't remember a lot of things, to be honest. But as it was starting,
No,
so
you
I
were
remember.
not. You were not. You were there when it was getting good. You weren't there when it was
Either way,
starting. You were not there when you had to like use your phone line and no one could use the phone.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. ADSL, bro. That's what it is.
ADSL is not this. ADSL is completely different.
When you heard the dial tone, when you couldn't go on the internet because your mum was downstairs having a cross-country call to wherever.
It didn't have to be cross-country. It just had to be
cool.
to your nan, and the phone would ring and your internet connection would get disconnected.
Yeah. Don't worry, I remember the sound very well. I
have very fond memories of like reading Zelda fan sites for Ocarina of Time Triforce theory. You know, is the Triforce in the game, content, all that sort of stuff. And you would click on a page because it had loads of images, magazines, scans and stuff. It would take, 5 minutes to load the page, and then you'd pour over that page and just suck in all the detail. But I'm right on that cusp where being born right at the end of the 80s, I just about remember no internet, and then I remember early internet, and I remember installing Destruction Derby and running it through DOS and stuff like that. But I don't remember some of the stuff that Tom, I'm sure, remembers. He's got a couple more years on me.
Tom was there, mate. Tom was there when they installed the lines.
Yeah. I remember like the main memory of like old internet for me was I had this mate who his dad got free dial-up internet through his work laptop. He used to have to dial. He used to dial somewhere, and then it would dial back or something, and you could go on super slow, like not even 56k, like super slow internet. And we were on this laptop that his dad had, and it was TGS, Tokyo Game Show, and it was the first time they showed off the Dreamcast. And I remember, and I was like, we were waiting for it felt like hours for this Sonic Adventure video to download. It was like a tiny little window, probably like, I don't know what the res was, like 320 by something or worse. It was a tiny little video.
320 by 240, surely, right?
We could not believe how good this game looked. It took like probably about 3 hours to download this 30-second video.
Jesus.
But that's like that. And this is the time when you'd have to wait for an image to load down the screen and stuff. It would just take forever. So that was like incredible at the time. And you think that, like, the Dreamcast in my mind wasn't that long ago, but it was a long time ago. But that's like, you think about how we've gone from that to like now you can download 100 gigs in a couple of hours, and this was like probably no more than a meg, I imagine. It was nothing, this video, but it just took forever. But yeah, that's you have to be dedicated. You had to be dedicated back then if you wanted to see anything video game related that wasn't in a magazine.
You didn't know no better them times, though. You didn't know any better. This was amazing. The fact that you could even do that. So
that's got me thinking about Dreamcast Online as well, because the Dreamcast had the modem, right? And there was like DLC for Sonic Adventure, where for the week before Christmas you could download the Christmas DLC, and it just added Christmas trees to like the first level of the game that looked incredibly crap and changed the music. But it was amazing because it came over the internet, and I remember playing Toy Commander on the internet as well, over 56k.
Dreamcast had internet? That's what I'm thinking in my head right now. Dreamcast had internet?
What's funny is that console was way ahead of its time, and then basically Microsoft took the blueprint that Sega had with the Dreamcast and did it again like 5-6 years later, but to way more success because it was the right time and people were ready for it. Also, Microsoft had EA Sports games and stuff, which that was always Sega's problem. I think that was, in my opinion, that's always been the biggest problem for the Dreamcast, was EA, right at the time when EA Sports games were getting massive, were like, we're not going to make any games for that machine. Then again, it hasn't hurt Nintendo, I guess. So.
Yeah. I will like to just add that the first reason you mentioned that you used to use the internet like in its inception to go and read stories and articles. I never used to read stories and articles. I went on MSN Messenger to just chat to girls in high school, and that was it.
You would have all the smileys in your name.
Okay, so you're not that old, Alex. You're not that old.
I remember MSN. but the thing is, I also spent a lot of time on IRC, and I bet you don't even know what IRC
What
is.
the hell is IRC? Hold on. Nah. What's IRC? What's that
I
one?
think it's Internet Relay Chat. I think is what it stands for, and it was just a very, very basic internet
MSN.
chat. It wasn't quite MSN. MSN was way more advanced than
It's
IRC.
a bit like Discord, but
Yeah,
a bit like Discord, is it? Yeah.
Like in the
Oh my
earliest
God.
days when I was doing the Final Fantasy fan site and the very, very earliest versions of RPG site, all the staff chatter and stuff all happened in an IRC channel. Before Slack and before Discord.
Jesus.
Yeah.
See, I feel old speaking about MSN, but then you guys make me feel super young.
Let me tell you something. We are all ancient in technology terms. It's as simple as that.
Oh God. Well,
I don't understand TikTok. It's too much for me. Instagram's my limit.
Yeah. TikTok is actually not that bad. I was saying it to Tom the other day how it started is not how it is now. If you go on there, you can, the algorithm catches on really fast on TikTok. So if you're into games and you just search like games once, everything will be gaming within a day or two. But it's not just girls dancing and crap. They do creep onto the timeline, but it's not just.
Well, they do if you're looking at them, as you just said.
Yeah. Basically, no. But say for example, if some teen girl, like that's what she wants to watch, it will come up for her. It will come up. But for me, I'm watching like game stuff and just random crap. I got stuck on a parrot page because I was just blown away at the fact that like parrots can even talk, and I was literally it's just random crap on there. Trust me, it is the biggest waste of time you will ever. It's a time sink. It's a time sink because it will catch you. Don't download it. It will get you.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Moving on, I guess. Moving on to state of play. What is the initial thoughts here? I do want to say something after our initial thoughts, because it's something that I just can't understand, but we'll get there. What do you guys think? State of play.
I thought it was all right actually. Like considering they set expectations super low, they showed off some. I mean, nothing sort of incredible in a new sense, but the games they showed off looked okay. Like. There was, I mean, if we skip over like Moss, I'm sure Moss Book 2, whatever it is for VR, would be great if you were into VR, and the first game was well liked. But moving on past, so that's cool if you're into that stuff. Arcade-Geddon, I think it's called, was by the people that did the Predator game. That looks okay. Like it looked as a kind of a new announcement. It looked decent. I mean, it's got that kind of almost Fortnite-y, not real. Cartoony look to it, and it looks kind of interesting. That's out now on early access, I think, on PC as well. There's that Tribes of Midgard, which we'd seen a lot of before. It still looks decent. Like it's a game that it feels like it's got PS Plus written all over it.
I think that game will be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, it looks decent. Like a co-op. Is it co-op like sort of action RPG type thing?
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool. Sifu looks really good still, like as a
amazing game.
That looks really cool. I mean, it feels like I don't quite know how it works as a whole game. Like we've seen these little sections, like fights. Like how does it work? How do you move through it, kind of thing? I'm not quite sure how that works yet, but maybe that's it. Still looks interesting. Jet, which is from Super Brothers, they do like really interesting games generally. Looks interesting as I don't quite, again, like until you play that, I'm not sure how it's going to work because it just looks you fly around in like a spaceship type thing on
No Man's Sky.
Well, it looks simpler than that, but there's an exploration and like discovering elements, and it looks like that's the kind of like a very typical. If you're going to go, what's the typical indie game look like? It's this. Like it is that kind. It's got like kind of. It doesn't look like AAA. It looks like its own unique thing, which is cool. Then the other stuff, like I lost interest a little bit in the middle because I think we got like the Demon Slayer game, which just anime stuff. Lost Judgment.
Amen.
I saw a lot of people were very excited.
Don't insult Lost Judgment.
I'm saying it looked good. Like that looks like, for me, I haven't played it, but it looks more interesting than like Yakuza to me as a thing. It looks like something I'd be more
Yeah.
into. We'll come back to this. I'm sure you
It's
want
basically the same.
but you're like a lawyer or something, like who fights people. Is that right? Have I made that up?
Yeah, it's just instead of a criminal, you're a lawyer, but you're sort of a lawyer with nothing to lose, who decides to start kicking ass. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean he wouldn't be disbarred or anything by doing that. It's fine. And then Death Stranding, we got a bit more of a look at the director's cut. The interesting thing there for me was I've got it on PS4. I've not played it, and I was like, are they going to let you upgrade it? I'm going to let you upgrade it, and you will. I think it's like $10, which isn't as bad as I was
$10.
expecting. Because you looked at, I was like with Ghost of Tsushima, which was what to upgrade from the standard to the director's one is like 25 quid or something. If you've got PS4 to PS5 directors, like it's a bit of a big leap. So this is like, I might just do it like it's going to be like $10. It's nothing really. That's a decent price, I think. People wanted it to be a free upgrade, obviously, but they're adding stuff, so it's not like it's just here's some sort of dual sense upgrades. They've actually got new content in there as well, which is pretty good. I
I
guess
was going to say they're adding stuff, and it's easy, hopefully, right? Because I paid $20 for Tony Hawk, and I had to like send my social security number and my bank account to Activision in order to get it to work or whatever. It was stupid. So yeah,
I mean that's the whole like the upgrade system on PlayStation 4 to PS5 is a mess, right? Everyone talked about like the what's the called smart delivery on Xbox, is it called? And it's like it felt like, why are they making a big deal of this? It's so simple, like you'll just get an upgrade. And obviously they made a big deal about it, probably knowing that PlayStation had no system in place whatsoever, and it was going to be a right nightmare. The fact you have to go into your game often and get the upload sorted from your game save, if they even support cross generation game saves, is just ridiculous. Like on Xbox, I never think about it because it just knows your saves are all in the cloud and it just takes them and it's done. It's so simple.
I will tell you now, admittedly, before people shout at me in the comments, I haven't really looked that hard because it's not important. I'll just do it when it becomes a space concern. But I still can't work out how to uninstall the PlayStation 4 version of Final Fantasy VII from my PS5 because they both end up under one menu item and then you select which version you want to play. And I can't work. And when I just glanced at it, there was no obvious option just to delete one version. I was like, what is this?
It's in the game content. I think it'll be in the game's content. So from like the main menu, it's so messy. But the main PlayStation screen, if you click on the game and press option on it, I think you can like manage game contents, and then the PS5, PS4, all the DLCs would be there.
Absolutely right, mate. Absolutely shocking.
It is. PlayStation, the kind of the whole, I mean, not just UI, but the feature set of the PS5 is just so poor at the moment. Like I was possibly naively thought I was downloading some games for my son because I wanted to get off some of these service games he's into. I wanted to just play through something that doesn't let you buy stuff all the time. So I was like, have some games. Like I downloaded a few and I thought I'll just put them in a folder. I'll make a folder on the PS5 to put all your games in so you know they're the ones you can play. And you can't make a folder on the PS5. It's like, what is this? It's the most basic function you'd think existed. And I was like, I'm Googling it because clearly I've missed it. And it's like, nope, you cannot make folders on PS5.
Is there really not?
Apparently not.
Really?
I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm going to get called all manner of names in the comments. If anyone comments, I mean, comment, just say, call me useless because at least we get some interaction that way. But I just like, as far as I know, you can't. And I think as much as like when I played them initially, the two new consoles, I was like, yeah, PlayStation, they've done something new. It feels new. It feels like they've done something different, which is good because you've got a new thing to play with. But now I'm like, nah, Xbox is like, I'm familiar with it all. It's so much better. There's so much more, like feature set is much better on Xbox. PlayStation feels like they're at least a couple of big updates away from being back to even what you could do on the PS4.
I will say this as well. The Xbox, although the DRM situation is a bit draconian in the sense of if your internet goes out, you're pretty screwed. And the same is true on Switch. I know it's a niche case, but in a household with multiple Xboxes, Xbox makes it so easy to move around, like, and just not panic. And things like, installing stuff via your phone so it's ready for you if you're out. And they've just nailed all that stuff. The only thing against Xbox is that the actual UI is still 1080p. And they really need to do an update where don't even change the UI, but just display that for.
Yeah, I think they suggested that is coming. I think there was someone posted on Reddit saying there may be a thing coming to sort that out. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but yeah, I'm sure once you see it in 4K, it'll look a lot crisper. But yeah, like I think the app for PlayStation is actually pretty decent, and I think you can possibly do remote installs and stuff.
You can.
You can.
I'm saying that as someone that I'm pretty sure the person that designed the app I used to work with, so maybe I'm biased. But if you're watching, Joey, well done. But yeah, I think generally it like function wise, we've gone way off topic, but like it's way behind. Like they need to do some big updates. I'm sure they'll get there, but it's just another example of these consoles feeling a little bit like they just rush them a bit out the door.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. I wanted to just mention that Lost Judgment game. You mentioned Shenmue earlier, Alex. It reminds me of that a lot.
I would say the closest relatives that Yakuza and, or at least action-based Yakuza, because now this is the whole thing, right? They did Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is a turn-based RPG, sort of a pastiche on Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, stuff like that. And basically what they're doing now is the new Yakuza game, whatever that might be, whenever they do the next one, that will be a turn-based RPG. And Lost Judgment is going to carry on the action thing that the first 6 Yakuza games were.
Okay.
So that's what they're doing there. And yeah, the action-based Yakuza games and Lost Judgment are functionally the same. And their closest relatives, really, is, yes, there's 2 sides to it. The exploration and the sort of realistic recreation of a city and all that sort of stuff does fit. The way you potter around and help random people and stuff, that feels very like Shenmue. And the fighting in the street stuff, I've always felt is the closest thing there is to a 3D spiritual successor to Streets of Rage, Final Fight, games like that. Even down to picking up stuff off the ground. You're not quite eating a whole turkey off the ground to replenish your health, but you are picking up steel pipes and whatever. Yeah.
You do loads of... It looks like you do a million random things in Lost Judgment. I see the guy skateboarding and I was like, what? This sort of game is this?
The thing about those games is they always do a million things and they don't necessarily do the million things the best, but they're all just fun enough and there's enough of them.
Yeah.
You feel quite occupied. It's like the skating in that is almost certainly going to feel quite rigid and stuff, but it's not going to matter because it'll be a fast way to get around. And if it's anything like the previous game, there'll be some very funny action set pieces involving the skateboard as well and stuff like that. So, yeah.
To Death Stranding now. I didn't even know that there was guns in Death Stranding. I'm not going to lie. I saw the trailer and I thought to myself, if they were to have shown the trailer they showed at yesterday's State of Play first, that was like their announcement trailer for Death Stranding, I probably would have bought it. Because that
is it misleading though, Alex? You've played it, right? I've not played Death Stranding much at all. So is that is the action focus of that trailer misleading as the game?
I haven't seen this trailer because I only caught up on the State of Play this morning and not too bothered about watching the trailer for the definitive edition, director's cut, whatever of Death Stranding. But it's a game that has combat, but it's definitely not Metal Gear. I'll put it that way. It is. People joke about it and call it Deliveroo Simulator or whatever, right? And you're stacking all the boxes on your back, or like, abused Amazon delivery driver simulator. Should unionize as soon as possible. But really, it's more than it looks. I guess it's a game that defies description, and I would say the best and most interesting stuff about it, in my opinion, is the way the online hooks sort of fold into the game. The way the things other people do can affect your world and stuff like that. I think it's fine. I think it's a funny game because I think the people who hate it way too much for what it is, and the people who love it need to take a chill pill because it's not nearly as good as they say it is. It's somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Cool. It looks half decent. It looks half decent. I might grab it.
Yeah, it looks great. It's got racing. It's got a racing mode now.
Yeah. I was like, where did all of these features come from? I was like, what is happening here? I see like jet propelled ramps of some sort that you can like fly over gaps in canyons now. I don't. It just looks so confusing to me. This looks okay. You skipped one game, I think.
Well, Deathloop. We haven't talked about Deathloop.
Deathloop is the one. It's the one, isn't it?
It was the big finish game, which
not even Deathloop, to be honest. It wasn't even Deathloop. You skipped 2 games.
I skipped the ones that didn't excite me. I think one of them was called Fist or something, which is like the indie game about the rabbit or whatever it is that beats people up. It looked fine, but I mean, it looked fine, but I'm just like, nah.
Give me 20 seconds on Fist. So
go on, then.
Creative games, they're my thing. I think everything's too hyper realistic these days. I like games when they say, do you know what? Here's something absolutely random. Similar to how Biomutant said, let's just do random rabbits in a third person combat sort of style. Concept is good, execution might not be that great, but Fist, side scrolling sort of beat 'em up Hollow Knight sort of vibes. Looks really good. It's on my list. Yes, thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
It will have an audience because it's got like a sexualized cat girl with long legs who's choking people out with her thighs in it. So there will be a certain segment. Yeah, she's in the trailer. She's breaking the other one out of prison. So there'll be a certain section of the audience. I'm sure there's fan art being drawn as we speak.
That's it.
So
can't wait.
I like 2D side scrolling action beat 'em up games, so I'll probably give that a try.
Looks really fun. And another one you missed was Hunter's Arena Legends.
I just forgot that existed, to be honest.
This is apparently it's apparently a game that's been in early access for a year when I searched it.
I watched the trailer, I remember now, and I thought I saw the costumes the women were wearing and switched off completely. It's like I just thought that is not for me. It's a
live service. It's a live service brawler, which I think nobody has successfully managed to do one of those yet. Maybe For Honor, I guess. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's heavily focused on costumes and the booba.
Basically. The booba. I thought it was that Naraka Blade Point game. When I first saw it, like literally the first 5 seconds, I was like, "Oh shit, Naraka Blade Point's getting some love." And then it was like, "It's Hunter's Arena Legends." I was like, "What the hell is this?" It just looks it looks like it'll be fun. What was the other game? Hood Legends. That was the one, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
The thing about that is, when I hear Hood Legends, I always think it's going to be a gangster game and not a Dungeons and Dragons game. When I hear Hood Legends, I think of some GTA San Andreas knockoff with multiplayer. Saints Row could have been called Hood Legends.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to get off my chest because every time I hear the name of that game, I think of a game that doesn't exist, and then I go, "Oh no, wait, that's actually this Dungeons and Dragons thing."
Yeah. We're going to get to Deathloop in a second, but I just want to say, Sifu, I think you said you didn't understand the structure of it. I think you get older, and as you get older, it's like your levels, and you sort of advance as a master, because I searched it yesterday. Si means teacher, and Fu means father, so it's something to do with age. Jet, the farthest shore, I really like the transition of the really tiny on-screen jet, and then it sort of transitions you into this wide open world in first person. Demon Slayer.
That's the sword and sorcery guys, right? So that's going to be that's going to be tight. That's going to be tight if it's anything like that game,
Yeah. Demon Slayer, I don't really care. The anime is good if you haven't watched it. It's okay. Okay, yeah. So now we can get to Deathloop. Could you imagine we're still seeing Deathloop previews? Because I just can't be asked to see any more of this. It's a game that I'm so excited for, but I just can't be bothered to continue seeing more gameplay of this game. I just want it to be out now.
It's one of those games, I think, from a media perspective, it kind of sucks that we're in the middle of the pandemic and stuff, because it strikes me as a game that the media really needs to go hands-on with to evangelize it. And that might not happen between now and launch, which is a bummer. But then again, who knows? This whole situation is so weird now. Maybe Microsoft's not that bothered and Bethesda are not that bothered about doing heavy promotion on this game because it's not on their platform, and now they're just doing the lip service sort of thing and to fulfill their contract with Sony. Who knows? But I don't know what Tom feels about it, but it looks good. It looks like an arcane game, by which I mean it looks like it's going to be a Game of the Year contender that barely anybody plays.
I mean, I think it looks like Dishonored if it was made into a game that I didn't find really boring and dull. So, like,
oh my god,
because Dishonored, I don't get on with stealth games. I know it's not just a stealth game, but it is primarily. I think people like it as a stealth game, right? Dishonored. I don't get on with it particularly. I've tried a few times. I'm sure I'll go back in like 5 years and I'll go, oh yeah, actually, it's quite good. But this looks like the kind of game I would like to play. It has similar ideas in it to Dishonored in terms of the way you move around and stuff, but it just looks like a more interesting game for me. I still like it doesn't wow me. Like I'm not watching it going, I must play it. Like it's incredible. Like it's like I don't know if it wasn't by who it's by and it wasn't being sold as a PS5 exclusive, would it be getting as much attention? I don't know. Like it might be a bit under the radar, but like it looks good. Like I'm sure it will review well. People will like it. Like yeah, I don't think it's going to sell tremendously well, but I think it doesn't have much of a spark for me. Like it's just there. It exists. It's a game that's coming to PS5. It's coming out when there's not a ton of PS5 exclusives. I know it's on PC. Is it on PS4 as well? But it's like people want it on PS5. But yeah, like it looks fine. Like it's like I think you say like we've seen a lot of it, even though because it's going to be out by now, right? It was going to be out in May, was it originally? So I feel like it's almost old before it's even been released, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, like I will play it, whether I play it on PS5 or wait for it to come to Xbox and get it on Game Pass, or whatever. I don't know, but it looks interesting. It looks fun, and it's like at least it's just not another like it's just not a clone or something. I know it said it looks a bit like Dishonored, but it's not just another shooter, right? It has something about it. So yeah, it's fine. Like I think as an end, I think they possibly like all these state of plays and everything. I think they need to think about how they end these things because expectations are high no matter what you say. And I know Deathloop was the thing they said. Yeah, like here's the cool game that we're going to show off, but people expect things at the end of these things, even if you've said there's nothing going to be there. I'd have just stuck Death Stranding at the end.
Let's be real. Well, let's be real. Like Final Fantasy 16 trended throughout that entire state of play as people worked themselves into a higher and higher fever pitch that it was going to be there, and then it wasn't. Because if you're Sony, when you say we're going to showcase third-party games, I think most people expect that means you're going to have a big game from Square Enix or Capcom as a topper, basically. And that obviously did not materialize. And I'm sure it will I bet you the next state of play, like, if I had to guess, there probably won't be one next month, maybe September, right? I bet the next state of play is going to be all up in Final Fantasy and Forspoken, and maybe we'll learn about the next Resident Evil and stuff, which will probably be some sort of spin-off that Capcom shouldn't have made, but made anyway, because that's how Capcom rolls with Resident Evil. Good game, bad game, good game, bad game. Or Monster Hunter or something. Dragon's Dogma. But I reckon that, there'll be a state of play which will deliver on all those things. But I think messaging is vital, and it's maybe they should have said a bit more. Maybe they should have said a bit more about what games to expect.
Yeah, that actually brings me to the question I wanted to ask right at the start, but I said I was going to delay it. How do you guys feel about just when they do the announcement tweet with, because another brand, another company done this, where they put the disclaimer, this game, XYZ game is not going to be shown at this event. How do you guys feel about this, like that sort of trend that's happening of the disclaimer? To say, don't get your hopes up.
I wish it didn't have to happen, but a lot of people who are very vocal about video games on the internet are seemingly still in diapers. So you know, you got to do what you got to do. And even then, right, it wasn't the E3 one, but the Square Enix Presents before E3, whatever month it was, they did that March or something. They literally did a list of everything that was going to be in it in the announcement. Like, they put an image up on Twitter and it said, we're going to have this and this and this and this and this. And they literally showed that list in the order that was on the image. And then they had one little surprise at the end. And people were still mad. Like, Christ. And there was like a YouTuber, a dickhead YouTuber who was going like, I don't know why I get my hopes up. I'm like, they told you. Like, either you can't read... Either you can't read, or you are just willfully stupid. And that guy is willfully stupid, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's just a case of just the way I think the state of play was actually decent enough, like, for what it was. I think people just have such high expectations. Like, I know I said they should have ended it stronger. Like, they just announced, like, last week, the Ghost of Tsushima director's cut, right? They could have shoved that on the end of this, and then people would have gone, oh, cool, that's a nice surprise ending. I mean, obviously they wanted to give that its own space and that kind of thing, but just in terms of how they structure these things, there's an expectation which I think you can't get over from the fan base. I mean, we're not going to go on message boards and Twitter and whatever and IRC and slag off developers and stuff, but people do. And I think while they obviously need to figure out how to get that fan base to be less toxic, they have to know what to expect when they do these things. And like I think just ending on anything that is, even if it's just a small thing that gives people, that's a cool little thing to end on, ends the whole problem of like this disappointed. And I think like Deathloop looks great, right? But it's just not. It doesn't get people. Some people got excited by it, obviously. But it's just not people. They've set these things. They set them up themselves. Like, this is a games industry created that and one more thing moments, right? It's a thing people now expect all the time from all these videos. So it's not like it's like this doesn't have there's a precedent there. Like, this is what people expect to see now from all these things, and it's like you get it on like in the Nintendo Directs and everything as well, right? Even though generally I found most Nintendo Directs to be a bit naff. There's still that, like, people generally come out of them feeling okay because they usually have something at the end that's like a thing that a certain portion of the fan base get behind. But I don't think Sony have quite got that yet in terms of how they structure these things.
Nintendo's gotten very good at balancing that, right? Like, they have, I would say, practically perfected it. It's been a long time since there's been a Nintendo Direct where someone has gone, that's a complete damp squib. Obviously there was that big period where they didn't have a Nintendo Direct, and that sort of sucked. But this is the same. We talked about this, a month ago, right? With the Microsoft E3 thing, where it ended on
Redfall.
I wanted to say Red Wall, which is a horrific UK political thing. But yeah, with that, and we said, and Tom was called a PlayStation fanboy for saying so, that it doesn't have the same sort of impact if your one more thing also is a new IP that no one really knows about with no actual gameplay. But at the same time, I wish we weren't like that, because it is a bit of a cheap shot to go, here's a 1 minute CG trailer for a new Banjo-Kazooie, a new Fable, a new Twisted Metal, Uncharted 5,
I remember that game.
Whatever. Uncharted 5, whatever. It's very, very cheap to do that when the game's miles away. So it's sort of a rock and a hard place situation. Do you do that to appease the people, or do you show what you've got? Come good or come ill. I think the only reason Nintendo is so good at it, I said they've perfected the art of it. Part of the reason they've perfected the art of it is because they've got so much in the hopper that gives people that oh my god moment. It's like Metroid is not a significant IP. I think it's probably sold under 25 million units, the whole series.
Yo.
All combined. I don't know if that's exactly right, but I know that like Metroid games are typically a couple of million, basically, each.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then maybe like Prime 1 was hugely successful and Super was hugely successful or whatever. But Metroid, like Star Fox, like F-Zero, is not a big series. However, you announce a Metroid, a Star Fox, or an F-Zero, and people are going to lose their shit.
Yeah.
And that is something that Sony and Microsoft don't have as much. So
I think it depends on which IP, because I think PlayStation, they've got a lot of games that have just been left in the dust. For example, I think I mentioned it before, like a Killzone game or a Resistance game. I know you said you didn't like those, but if, for example, one of those were to come back, it was like, but what if it comes back and it's like, yeah, this is actually good now? I don't know, man. Stop making that face. But you said Twisted Metal.
That's just my natural reaction when I hear the word Resistance.
Resistance?
You didn't like Killzone?
Killzone.
I like Killzone's all right. Killzone's all right. Resistance, I always thought was.
Did you play the original Killzone on the PS2?
Yes. Yeah.
No.
Garbage. What a garbage game. Killzone on PS2, awful. Resistance, awful. Resistance 2, awful. Resistance 3, good. There you go.
Yeah.
I see. I never played Resistance 3.
Resistance 3.
It got better.
Resistance 3 is actually a very good game.
Well, maybe I did. I don't.
I think possibly is underappreciated. But that's I'll agree with Dorani on that one. Of only on Resistance 3, not 2. Even though I'll look back, I probably gave all these games 9 out of 10. So ignore what I'm saying. Don't look at my review history.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, for example, this is a brand new generation. A lot of the Insomniac, for example, who make Resistance have come a long way, I would say. So the next Resistance game could be amazing. Look at how shooters are now.
No, it could be. I don't deny that. And Insomniac's a great studio. Like, the fact that I don't like the Resistance games, and I might have played the third one. I genuinely, they've all blurred together. But, like, the fact that I was never a massive fan of Resistance is nothing about the quality of Insomniac. They're a great dev. But it is that thing of, yes, the next one could be great, but you wouldn't get that reaction. You wouldn't get as big of a reaction to a new Resistance as Nintendo got to a new Metroid, even though probably the last 3 Resistance games have probably massively trounced the last 3 Metroid games, if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that thing. I saw a really interesting stat the other day. It was about Banjo-Kazooie. And that obviously belongs to Xbox now, but it began its life on Nintendo. And Banjo-Kazooie is one of those series where you see people talking about a revival and begging Microsoft to bring it back all the time. And hell, Banjo made it into Smash.
There you go. Banjo from Smash.
And yet, someone posted like a image which was like all the sales of the 3D platformers from that era. And Banjo was like equal to or outsold by like Gex.
Was it Croc or something?
Or Croc or something like that.
Croc,
it puts into perspective. But no one's saying bring back Croc, bring back Gex.
Yeah.
They're saying bring back Banjo. And part of that is because undoubtedly Banjo is the better game. In fact, I actually think Banjo-Kazooie, it's not as revolutionary, but I think if you're talking N64 platformers, I actually think Banjo-Kazooie is a little bit better than Mario 64. But, you know, it's also about Nintendo games just, they light this bizarre fuse in people. I even like it, where if a new Star Fox was announced, I'd probably just like take all my clothes off and streak down the street. Like... and I feel that way. I feel that way, even though the last Star Fox was dog shit. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I get your point that Nintendo have, as you said, like more ammo to let loose whenever they feel like it. I would definitely agree with you there, but I feel like PlayStation do also have it, but they just don't use it and might not be to the same effect. Might not be as grand. I'm definitely putting that clip of you saying Banjo-Kazooie is better than Mario right at the start to get people, in the video. Like, what?
I've said it before.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Banjo-Kazooie wouldn't even exist without Mario 64. You know, there was a lot of homework copying going on in that era when it comes to Rare and Nintendo. Like, Nintendo copied things in Donkey Kong Country as well. Like, you know, without Donkey Kong Country, wouldn't have got the unique art style of Yoshi's Island, for instance, and Yoshi's Island informed a whole sub-series. Like, the reason all these Yoshi games now have unique looks, like the clay look and the wall look, is because Yoshi's Island is like that, and that came from them wanting to do something almost as an answer to Donkey Kong Country. So there was a lot. You cannot separate those two in a way, but I just think as a start to finish experience, Banjo-Kazooie is real good. But so is Mario 64. We are splitting hairs between two We're splitting hairs between two 10 out of 10s there. So
Yeah.
Banjo-Tooie, not so good.
That's so
to be
good.
clear.
Is there anything else anyone wants to speak about during this week that happened? It's just, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I like when there's like multiple things that happen. State of Play was good. Nintendo, yeah, all right. But anything else you guys want to mention?
I will do a quick selfish. I will do a quick selfish little plug and say that there's a thing starting this week, going for 10 weeks, which is if you go onto the Facebook page of Top Gear, the TV show, they're doing a series which is Top Gear, but about video games and about racing games. And I'm in one of those episodes. So if you think I'm an idiot here, wait until you see me there. But yeah, it's a cool thing. Some really cool people worked really hard on it. And it's a rare case of like a big company, a big corporation, like the BBC, bringing in a bunch of people who really know video games from the games media, the games industry, to do something like that. So hopefully people watch it and enjoy it, basically. So maybe check that out.
Yeah, definitely. That looks really interesting. I think you said something really key there. You do see a lot of people go on to like the bigger shows and not have a clue what they're speaking about with games. And so I've seen some of the lineup, and it looks pretty stacked. So definitely go and check Alex out among other people doing great things, putting games on the map, because it's still not mainstream. It's mainstream, but it's still not there. Does that make sense?
It's mainstream, but it's like there's a generation of people who turn their nose up at it. And I've got builders in the house at the minute, or outside the house, I guess, doing a home improvement project for us. And, you know, you end up making cups of tea and chatting to them about what you do for a living. And, you know, yet another one of those conversations where I'm trying to explain to them, no, games are like as big a business as movies, if not bigger.
Yeah,
they're like, what? No, that's a load of crap. And I'm like, no, genuinely, guys, like, hopefully, you know, it's all of our jobs to change that perception, and also all of our jobs to not act like children on social media and stuff, or when someone in politics says something bad about games. We have to tackle that smartly, as opposed to screaming on Twitter and Facebook and threatening to kill them or prank calling them or whatever. And these are the things that we as an industry have got to work through, right? And with that acceptance comes all sorts of things. Better government grants to help make games, to help games get made. You know, tax breaks for indie devs to help indie games get made, and social acceptance where people aren't like, that's a nerd's hobby. So hopefully, you know, baby steps, right?
Yeah, definitely. You're doing the good work, Alex. You're doing the good work. Yeah, that's about it, really. Tom, before
I wasn't invited to go on Top Gear. Like, that's now, if you count them as a group, 3 of my former colleagues / friends have done projects that they have not included me in any way. So it's not like it's a double snub at the moment on that front. Yeah, so that's what I've got to say on that.
Yeah, right. So thanks for joining us again for another week of. We still don't have a name for this We still don't have a name for this podcast video. Yeah, but thanks for watching all the way into the end. Go and check out Alex's show on BBC. Next time, invite Tom to the show.
One last thing. If you are a Pokemon Go player, you probably know there's an event on right now. If you are a lapsed Pokemon Go player, it's the 5th anniversary of the game right now. Where have those 5 years gone? And basically, there's some quests, like this Jumpstart research, where it has appeared before, but if you didn't do it back then, you've been lapsed out of the game for a year or 2. These quests are in the game for the next, 5, 6 days, 7 days, and they are designed to help you catch up. So if you have fallen off Pokemon Go and you want to go back and check out some of the stuff that's been added, go on, check out the anniversary events. There's some cool other bonuses as well. And if you get stuck on any of it, there's some guides on the site.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Get Pokemon Go as well. If you missed out, play the quests. That has been Dorani, Tom, and Alex from VG247. Peace out, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.